What do you fundamentally believe about 9/11? What happened that day?
I believe that there is a complete lack of accountability and transparency on the official bodies that were tasked to investigate the events. I think that the 9/11 Commission, a lot of family members and a lot of survivors were looking to the 9/11 Commission for closure. They went into those hearings expecting answers. As you just heard Bob McIlvain say up there, he wanted answers from the commission. He went in there expecting things to finally make sense, and they didn't. And I think it's the complete lack of accountability on the part of the government that has led to the formation of the truth movement, and is why, people like me and Corey and everyone here continue to do what they do, is because we're pretty much doing what the government didn't do, which is properly investigate and look into the events of September 11th, who truly stood to benefit from it, and why we're still living in the repercussions.
Do you believe the U.S. government murdered American citizens on 9/11?
I think that's a loaded question because, the U.S. government involves the post office. So I don't think that...
So let me phrase it a different way then. Do you believe elements of the U.S. government murdered American citizens?
I believe that it's highly possible that there were definitely elements within the Bush administration that either were criminally negligent or criminally complicit in the events.
Complicit, you mean they allowed the killing of innocent Americans?
One way or another, they allowed the killing of innocent Americans. The only question is how responsible they were for it.
Why would they do that?
Why wouldn't they?
Well, do you have a reason for them? Do you have a motivation?
Well, look at everything that the American government has done in the name of fighting terror. Look at the foreign wars we launched. Look at everything that's been done in the name of preventing another attack like that. And ask yourself if any of it could have been done on September 10th. We're still living in the post-9/11 era, and we're still doing whatever we want because of it.
Let me ask you, Corey, what do you fundamentally believe about that day?
I fundamentally believe that there is a huge problem. As a veteran who served in both Afghanistan and Iraq for our country, and to see my brothers and my fellow soldiers die overseas over misconstrued information, straight up lies, and disinformation that's been put out to the American public to push a war that is, on every level illegal, built on lies. And the fact that you say, would the American government kill innocent Americans? They do it every day. They send soldiers to war every single day to fight a war that was built on lies. So they kill American soldiers every day that we stay in Afghanistan and Iraq for the reasons that the Bush administration placed us there.
Of course, soldiers die in war. Soldiers go to war. Do you believe elements of the American government were complicit in killing innocent civilians that day?
Yes, I do.
And what gives you reasons for that?
The history behind it, there's so many instances of our government, experimenting on civilians, using civilians for whatever their means are. I mean, throughout history, not only Americans' history, but throughout other countries' history, there's been instance after instance of governments using and killing their own civilians.
So let me get this straight. You think elements of the U.S. government were complicit in slaughtering innocent...
Are you trying to get sound bites out of us, or are you trying to talk to us?
I'm asking you a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Ask me again.
Do you believe the American government, elements of it, were complicit in slaughtering innocent civilians on 9/11?
I do. I believe because of the things that they missed, the warnings that they had, the information that they had available to them, what they knew was going to happen, the amount of other foreign governments that told us that the attacks were going to take place and we did nothing to stop it. Yes, that's criminally complicit.
The fact that Bush sat in the school for a half hour when he should have been immediately escorted out of that school. The Secret Service's job is to protect the president at all costs. When Andrew Card leaned in and said whatever he said to President Bush, he should have been immediately escorted out of that school to make some kind of decision. He was allowed to sit there for a half hour and do nothing while innocent people died. You tell me whether or not they allowed people to be slaughtered.
If what you say is true, that there was some kind of a conspiracy, how many people do you think would have had to have been involved in that conspiracy?
You just want us to sit here and speculate. We're not going to do it. No, you're asking us to speculate. That's a loaded question that we get all the time, so you can go back and say, go ahead.
Let me ask the question. If you're suggesting that
There's no way of knowing.
If you're suggesting that the U.S. government was somehow complicit, don't you think a lot of people would have had to have been in on that secret?
Not a lot of people, no. And absolutely. War games take place all the time. Soldiers within the military, other private corporations do war games all the time. They are people behind a computer operating things and interjecting blips, removing blips from radar, making things happen so that, that it's a war game. And to them, they think it's just part of an exercise. But it can be easily real life situation. I mean, people pilot Predator drones all the time, and things can be easily, done without someone actually knowing that they're actually taking place in it. And if so many people were involved, wouldn't somebody come out and say something, right? That's your next question. I mean, we can give you the list of how many government officials, FBI agents, CIA agents, former Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney. There is a laundry list, hundreds and thousands of names long of government officials, politicians, inside, the intelligence agencies that have come out and said the numerous issues that are up with 9/11. And you want us to focus on, did the government do it, or,
There's an FBI whistleblower here right now if you want to interview her. I mean, if
No, we plan on interviewing her, but I mean, the question is, if people would have had to have been in on the conspiracy, don't you think by now someone would have acknowledged it?
Don't you think
10
that
years later?
Don't you think if you took part in the murder of 3,000 people, you wouldn't want to get on TV and admit it? You're telling me you, Chris, the producer at ABC News, if you helped slaughter 3,000 innocent people and lead to 2 illegal wars, would you get up on ABC News and tell the American people and be followed, harassed, and probably killed?
Well, I worked in Washington for a long time, and one thing I learned in Washington is that there aren't too many secrets in Washington. And if there are, they don't last very long. Washington leaks like a sieve.
You ever heard of the Manhattan Project?
Oh, yeah.
So you know that Harry Truman didn't even learn about it until he took office?
So,
Do you know that? Do you know that Harry Truman didn't know about the
I'm
Manhattan?
not going to debate the Manhattan Project. With
Well,
you.
you want to debate about whether or not secrecy is possible in the government, and I think I just proved it to you.
I'm just trying to get your view.
And again, our views aren't important. We're just two guys that made a movie, and our views are clearly put forward in our movie. And I mean, and we don't want you want to pigeonhole us down into did the government do it or not. 9/11 is so huge. There's so many aspects to 9/11. On every single level, that we're just two guys that made a movie, never intending it for it to do what it did, and we've been trying to deal with it and do the best that we can. There's people here that you should be interviewing. There's CIA agents, there's the FBI whistleblower, Bob McIlvain, the family member who actually is asking the question, who is putting forward the information that he feels that is important and that needs to be investigated. Not to mention the first responders and the people that are here that were there that day, that were on the ground, that saw what they said they saw, and have come out and given their testimony time and time again. We're just two guys that took that information and collected it into a digestible piece of video edited information. And it's only because of all of these people's work that we've ever gotten any credibility at all. And we shouldn't get any credibility. I'm just going through college now.
That's another question. Are you prepared to admit that you might be wrong? That
Absolutely.
in fact,
We've been wrong before.
There may have been hijackers.
We didn't say there weren't hijackers.
Of course there was hijackers. Of course they're clearly there on the
Put words in our
videotape.
mouth, and you can't say that we believe things that we didn't say we believe. It's that simple.
No, I'm asking you, are you prepared?
We've been prepared
the
since
fact
we've
that you're
been prepared
wrong.
since
And we
day
wanna
one.
be wrong.
But you know what happens is ABC News comes and interviews us and then goes and attacks us instead of actually going and, I don't know, maybe trying to get some accountability for the events. It's easier for you guys to interview the 2 young filmmakers and attack them, call them names, put words in their mouth, and extract sound bites from them than to actually go and try to investigate the attacks. And so we just keep fighting back and forth with the media. You just keep calling us names and we keep going, why aren't you going and interviewing actual people that could lead to a new investigation? Why is it easier to interview us and to demonize us than to actually try and get your job done?
Well, a lot of journalists have done that, and a lot of organizations have reported. As you know, the assertions you make were sort of disputed point by popular mechanics.
No, they weren't. They picked 7 claims that they said the whole movement makes, and they painted them with a brush and said, that's it, case closed.
They found Stephen Jones, who is a professor at NYU, I'm sure you know who he is, has found nanothermite in the dust from 7 different independent samples.
And that proves what?
That proves that there was
Proves that there were
explosives at the
explosives
World
in the
Trade
building.
Center. That's exactly what it proves. So when somebody is ready to explain to us how nanothermite is in the rubble of the World Trade Center, I'd love to hear it. And again, you say, I don't like doing this. I'm a veteran of this country. I've served and I've watched my brothers die for this. I don't want to know that the United States government had anything to do with 9/11. I don't want to believe that.
But you do.
But yes, of course I do, because the evidence points to that direction. The evidence points that they had their hands. The evidence points that they knew it was coming and did nothing about it. The evidence points that there is explosive material in the rubble of the World Trade Center and nobody's investigating it. The 9/11 Commission had nothing but politicians, not an engineer, not a physicist, not a family member, not a victim, not a first responder, only politicians. That is a problem. It's not properly investigated. The 9/11 Commission report reads like a novel. I mean, come on, there's no real information in that. And anything that we try to put out, I mean, you guys just simply knock us down. And again, the best way that Dylan put it is, why are we fighting? Why are we going back and forth between?
No, we are, because this piece is going to air, and
we already know what the piece is
we
going to
already
do.
know what you guys are going to do. Just by the questions you asked us, it's very clear what your agenda is. So the only question is, are you going to continue attacking us, and are you going to keep doing the same thing that the media's done for years, or are you actually going to try and get some justice?
I'm curious though. Did you start with a conclusion and work backwards to get?
Absolutely not.
No.
No, our film was created by accident. It was created by finding information when trying to research a different story. These things are out there. The information was just out there. And
tell us how your film started. How did it begin?
You want? I got it. Good emotion. What was the question again? Oh, how did the film start?
The genesis.
It was good. Okay. The film started. Oh. The film
What's
started.
the genesis of your movie? Your film?
The film started by accident. It essentially was Dylan writing a script about 3 kids that were trying to make a change, that they knew something and were trying to let the public know about it. In doing so, just simply researching the events of 9/11, the information became apparent that there's other angles, there's other things that could have happened.
Did you start off trying to make a fictional film?
We did start off trying to make a fictional film, yes, and it transpired into finding the information that we did. And again, I didn't believe this when I first, I was in the military. My first day of basic training was September 11th. I was gung ho. I was go to war, let's get the terrorists. But with the overwhelming amount of evidence that I've seen that's come across my desk, it's very hard to just to digest the 9/11 Commission report. And again, whatever is out there, the science is irrefutable. I feel.
Where are you guys going with this? What do you think you're going to accomplish with this?
We've already accomplished more than we ever tried to accomplish. All we wanted to do was
How many people have seen your film?
hundreds of millions of people. It's been translated into over 20 languages. It's hit every corner of the earth because of Google and YouTube. And people come after us and they say, well, how could you make a documentary? How could you benefit from the death of other people? The only difference between us and ABC News, you guys made a documentary about 9/11 as well, is that we give it away for free. We ask people to copy it, distribute it, and that's our opinion.
So it's gone viral.
It
went viral and back.
Absolutely. I mean, it has its own life, and we're not trying to accomplish anything else. At this point, I'm going to college. Dylan's trying to take off and do the things in the video industry his own way. He's shooting music videos. I'm trying to get my college degree. We've moved on with our lives, and we come to these events to support the people that are actually doing the work.
This is actually the first time we've been to a conference together in over 6 months. I mean, maybe longer, because again, I mean, we did our job. We made the movie. It's out there. It's not the job of the young filmmakers anymore. It's the job of ABC News to actually investigate 9/11 and actually try to get some accountability.
What do you think about the fact that someone like John Patrick Bedell, who shares some of these beliefs, tries walking into the Pentagon loaded with ammunition and is shot by the
Well, first of all, we don't know exactly what he believed. We know that the news said that he might have been a truther, but that's it. That's all we know. I don't support violence. It's that simple.
Do you?
I think it's very interesting what's happened in this case, and I don't know, like Dylan said, I don't know his beliefs or whether he was a real truther or not, but what's interesting is I've heard 9/11 truth more in the last 7 days on the news, or the last couple days in the news, than I have in the last 7 years.
So what?
Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to already equate us with this man and trying to say that the 9/11 truth movement is a militia gun-toting anti-government conspiracy theory. That couldn't be anything farther from the truth. I'm a constitutionalist. I want the Constitution back to the way it was. Freedom of speech and everything like that. There should be nothing else held out against the American people.
I mean, Cindy Sheehan is here. What more do you need to know?
don't know what that has to do with anything.
Well, because Cindy Sheehan supports the 9/11 Truth Movement, and I think Cindy Sheehan is pretty obviously anti-violence. Look, we're a peaceful movement, and just because someone picks up a gun and shoots people and the news decides to say, hey, he was a truther, that doesn't suddenly mean all of us are ready to pick up guns.
But it's so funny that when we try to do good things, when we donate money to the first responders, or we try to, you know, on the anniversary, try to show support and educate other people, just about our idea, just the idea to think, just the idea not to digest the main thing, that we don't get any coverage. That, you know, the Tea Party convention got every single organization there because it was, you know, do you know where the Tea Party started? It started in the 9/11 Truth Movement of us dumping the 9/11 Commission report into the Boston Bay. So, you know, it's interesting how until there's a violent act, now they're going to talk about the 9/11 Truth
Now you guys
Movement.
are here to ask us about it. You didn't care before, but now all of a sudden, now that there's a gunman, it's okay to come to the conference and interview us about it.
Where do you see yourself in political?
I'm sorry?
Where do you see yourself? I mean, some people would think that you're part of the lunatic fringe in American politics.
I'm a constitutionalist. I want the restoration of the United States Constitution. I think it's pretty simple.
First of all, there is no lunatic fringe political spectrum. What are you talking about? Are you just calling us names, or is that a real...
No, I'm asking you, where do you see yourself in American politics? Do you see yourself on the fringes, mainstream? Where do you see yourself?
I see myself as a concerned citizen who cares about his country and is sick of seeing the news attack people that want to see justice. It's bottom line. I'm an American, man. I care about my country.
And you're convinced that the elected representatives of your country may have helped kill innocent people?
Yeah, it's a fact. It's happened before, it happened on 9/11, and it's going to happen again.
It's going to happen again. How?
Inevitably. How? Sure, okay, well let me draw you a map. How am I supposed to say how it's going to happen? I don't know, but it has happened before, it happened on 9/11, and it will inevitably happen again. History repeats itself.
Let me just ask you one last question. What about all the people on the planes who were killed?
They're dead. They're dead.
We don't question that at
Yeah,
all.
what are you trying to put in our mouths now?
I'm just asking.
No, you're not. Why are you asking us that?
It's a question. It's my job.
No, I know, but why did you ask us that question?
No sinister motive.
Good. The people are dead. It's an absolute tragedy.
Last word?
I appreciate you guys coming to the conference. I urge you to listen to some of the speakers that have come in here. And if you want to talk about some technical information, Richard Gage is going to be up there soon, giving his, the architects and engineers rundown of their latest findings and everything like that. I urge you to stay and just listen and just watch. And again, we're just two young guys that made a movie that went viral on the internet. It was an accident. I wouldn't even call it lucky. We've been berated through the media. We've been given death threats. We've been called every name under the sun. I am a veteran of the United States. I have done more for this country than 95% of the people that live here. And all I'm trying to do is get some justice for the people like Bob McIlvaine who are crying on stage asking the United States government to simply investigate what they should have investigated in the first place properly. It's not that difficult.
What's the next movie about?
We're not making any more movies. There's no more documentaries. We don't want to do this. We don't want to be the ones out here saying that 9/11 is an inside job, but somebody's got to do it. And I've stood up before, I will do it again, and I don't care. You want to call me a name, you want to call me whatever, go for it. I'm going to still be here. I'm going to be doing the same thing I've been doing for years because I know that I'm a good person and that I'm doing the right thing.
Let me ask you an honest question. Are you going to do a sit-down interview with Bob McIlvaine?
I don't know.
So that's a no.
I would urge you to do
See,
that.
that's the thing. You're here to interview us, but you're not here to interview a family member. Why is that? Why is that? I'm curious.
I told you I don't know.
You don't know. You're the producer, aren't you?
No, I'm the reporter.
You're the reporter? Well, why can't you at least sit down with Bob McIlvaine and interview him just for the hell of it?
I'm not sure.
I would urge you to.
I would urge you-
This has been a
because
very
you're
emotional interview.
Because you've actually been here. You've had an opportunity to speak to all these people that could actually talk to you about the loved ones they lost, the actual pain and grief that they've had to go through. And instead, you're sitting here interviewing us. So why is that? Why is it easier to interview us than the actual people who were affected by 9/11?
Because you don't want to interview them.
Do our jobs. We'll let you do it.
No, I don't
You're
think
not
so.
letting
Because you're
us-
not doing your job. You are not doing your job.
Either way.
Plain and
thank you.
simple.
Thank you. Nice interview. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Good.
Sometimes screaming at people that they're going to be dead in the FEMA camps